Salutations, fellows. I labored to birth this video into existence for you today, whatever day it is. It's the second part of solo leveling, ready to be looked upon. Check out part 1 if you missed it, or not, if you don't care. Anyway, when we last left off, the nurses lust over Jin-Woo's solid bod, impressed with his physical development over the last few days. Shortly after, he's kicked out of the hospital for being too healthy. Chiseled muscle man, Jin-Woo, appears on television to divulge his daily routine. As the One-san watches, she notices her brother's ample developments and comments about him suddenly becoming 6'7" in heels. After banishing Gina to school, Jin-Woo surveys his numerical gains, deciding on the direction he should go in next with his skill points. The dreaded call requesting him to pay rent interrupts. However, Jibby finds enough confidence in his second awakening to not be troubled. Several notable issues arise despite this. Finding work as an E-rank hunter is still a challenge, and going in for reappraisal would attract swathes of unwanted attention. He obtains a text message bearing the Trojan horse of shock. Upon Jin-Woo's entry to the site, a man bearing the weight of being known as Wang Dong-suk introduces himself, and his gang spill foul laughter at Jin-Woo's notorious weakness. Dong-suk apologizes for their rudeness and gets down to business. Red flag number 1. The C-rank dungeon they're entering allows babies to accompany the main party as long as they just carry supplies. Red flag number 2. They don't have a healer. Jiblu signs the contract. Goldie Gilded spatially teleports all the way from the world of the Imminence and Shadow to become a sparkling twinkle in the depths of the spelunk. He goes by Jin-Ho and is presumably here to be looted after he dies horribly. Red flag number 3. Acquired. As Jin-Ho reveals that he is a stock fund baby on the autistic spectrum, Dong-Sucker peaks the width of the gate, the broadness of which worries the plebs. Jin-Woo retains confidence in the guild's assessment of the dungeon, and they enter. The empty, dank hallways remind Jimmy of his trauma, but Jin-Ho breaks him free from his psychology with dumb questions about the basics of dungeon composition. Their anxiety about a monsterless dungeon is quelled by the sudden appearance of a swarm of red boys. They skitter into the hunters and are redirected to Dong-Suk, buying time for their wizard to emit a fat spell, and the rough and tumble healerless crew take care of the horde, while Jin-Woo watches on, slightly frustrated by something. After the battle, the hunters begin harvesting, as Dong-Suk thanks Jin-Woo for identifying their opponent's attack direction. The wizard expresses concern over the corpses, pointing out that many of them have been half-eaten, an ill-fated sign of a monster infighting. Jin-Woo warns the intern to be cautious around this group of hunters. Meanwhile, Jin-Ho causes an earthquake with the ferocity of his training. The spelunk continues as they discuss the voluminousness of the cavern. This causes Jin-Woo to ponder the multiple red flags he's seen so far. The party reach a section of the cave plastered in glizzy glue and begin to suspect that the boss room is imminent. The scenery changes as foretold, and they enter, finding a marvelous chamber of mana crystals worth millions. Dong-Suk reflects on the impending change to his fortune, while Jin-Ho looks over the contract Jin-Woo signed, pointing out that Jin-Woo-san is entitled to a share of the meth. Dong-Suk agrees, but cites the need to work carefully around the gargantuan spider, which is currently asleep. This nerd forgot his tools, so Dong-Suk and his gang begin to hurry back to retrieve them, hastily leaving the nooblets behind. Red flag number 4. Jin-Woo reflects on this and remains unsurprised, as their dodgy party members block the exit by collapsing the tunnel. Song-san appears in a vivid hallucination to inform Jin-Woo about the crime rate within dungeons. Jin-Ho blames himself and the spider awakens. Jin-Woo, on the other hand, finds that the time to fight is nigh, and challenges Shelob to a duel. Dong-Suki is confident that the E and D rank hunters can't possibly defeat a C rank boss, and reveals his entire plan to loot Jiho's corpse, who also states confidently that they can't beat this thing, giving Jin-Woo flashbacks to his previous kaiju fights. He discovers that he no longer feels fear and begins the hunt. Meanwhile, Chairman Go decides to acquiesce to a sparring match aimed towards relieving the stress of business business meetings. Spider is hard and powerful. Jin-Woo freezes in fear of Jin-Woo's strength, determining that he is a false ranker, one who is stereotyped as a psychopath who just likes killing. Jin-Woo is unable to pierce the boss's unyielding carapace and figures it would be prudent to aim for more decisive weak points. It spits goop all over the floor in response though. With Jin-Woo's new skill, Dash, he's able to close the distance, but misses, I guess. He keeps going, quicker and quicker, until he runs out of stamina and is flung into the wall. Jin-Woo hastily uses his daily reward to replenish what is deplenished, and jukes his foe, allowing him to firmly land a strike, which applies his dagger's paralysis and poison effects. He keeps going. Victory achieved. Jin-Ho is shook, determining with absolute certainty that Jin-Woo is a false ranker, and he immediately assumes the role of servant boy for his all-powerful master. The bandits have returned. Go-Gun-Hee gives his underling, Jin-Chul, a hearty roughhousing, insisting afterward that honing the abilities you already have is worth more than chasing greater strength. Anyway, they believe that Jin-Ho defeated the boss, and Dong-Suk orders him to kill Jin-Woo or die alongside him. Jin-Hober trembles in fear, but ultimately stands his ground. Dong-Suk approaches menacingly, which causes Jin-Woo to receive an urgent quest to kill all of them. He is blasted. Meanwhile, some hunters gather at a cafe to discuss Cha Hain's patented A-rank dungeon training, which was awesome, but not particularly a useful learning experience. They discuss some guys who want to become captains, and ominous rumors about teams with high casualty rates. Speaking of which, Jin-Woo, on the brink of unconsciousness, has a mental breakdown regarding his own arrogance, carelessness, foolishness, etc., then peruses the new quest, figuring that the system must need him alive to accomplish something. He stands up. Everyone is shook. Jin-Woo states that the system is using him, just as he is using the system. They let him walk up to them, all menacingly. This guy goes to try intimidation, but fails to realize that Jin-Woo is not only schizophrenic, but also has a knife. They are afeared. Jin-Woo suppresses his urge to avoid killing, and determines that only the strong can survive in the system he has now symbiotically attached himself to. He undisputedly obliterates most of his enemies without any resistance at all. Dong-Suk gets juiced up after seeing his homies be so quickly slain, but is laid low without so much as a blink from Jin-Woo, who got a couple level ups from defeating the boss earlier. Dong-Suk attempts to barter, but fails. He tries intimidation by using his brother's fame, but also fails. Quest
completed?
Jin-Ho barfs, and the dungeon begins to collapse. Upon exiting, the report that all C-rank hunters were killed is a little suspicious, but put aside due to Jin-Ho's fancy equipment. Jin-Woo looks at his quest rewards, where he obtains the skill Murderous Intent. Anyway, that's the investigation concluded, and Jin-Ho thanks his savior, who blankly touches the rein. Meanwhile, Dong-Suk's brother? At the Hunter Association HQ, Jin-Chul is informed on the last episode's tomfoolery, calling attention to Jin-Woo's existence once again. Here he is, back home with some fried chicken, after paying off their family's debts. Gina is suspicious of her pathetic brother's lack of injuries, which causes him to reflect on his unexpected callousness and bravery. One-san rests him from his misery though, a subtle reminder of his reasons for seeking strength. In other news, Jin-Woo is unable to develop alcoholism and ponders this further in the darkness of his goon cave. After pounding a few more brewskis down the chamber, he figures out that his inaugural quest reward gave him inhuman regeneration and poison immunity. Later, Jin-Woo's humble servant boy beckons him to meet. They thank each other for various things before getting down to the gritty. Jin-Ho wishes to form an elite attack squad. He is rejected immediately. However, the lad wishes to become a guildmaster to secure dungeon resources for his father's company, and needs Jin-Woo to aid him in clearing 19 other dungeons to reach the qualifications. Originally, they were going to poach an S-rank hunter to fulfill this role, but this move didn't seem reasonable, so using his innate businessman instinct, Jin-Ho decides to throw his cards at Jin-Woo, who has proven himself to not only be a cool guy, but also immensely powerful. To seal the deal, Jin-Ho offers Jin-Woo a whopping $30 million. He contemplates the inherent risks of being discovered, and the possibility of the reward being minuscule in comparison to what he could earn upon reaching levels exceeding S-rank. He refuses a second time, but Jin-Ho counters by promising secrecy for life. It is ineffective. Meanwhile, Dong-suk's proficient clone finds that his brother has been killed, considers homicide, then menacingly schedules some free time. Later, the siblings skitter around in a forest together and converse monetary hypotheticals. Jin-Woo discovers that he can exercise more than required, and does so until his daily quest reaches capacity, unveiling a secret reward. With more advanced gambling, he pops the top on this box, which becomes a key to an S-rank dungeon, which bears host to the elixir of life. He could use that for his Kazan. As such, he explodes a door into existence and enters, finding an actual hellscape and a dog. The battle begins immediately, but Jin-Woo finds that he doesn't do much damage, and his debuffs are ineffective. Shortly afterward, his arm is bitten. The Hellbeast suddenly gets a 100% ability effectiveness increase and launches Jin-Woo across the city. He goes for a clear opening, but his quantum nanobrain tells him that this opponent feels no pain. A few additional launchings occur, which don't bode well. Now in critical condition, Jin-Woo figures he should probably Hearthstone, but drops his clonazepam and is unable to exit. Jin-Woo finds a brief respite and rediscovers the store, where he purchases a few healing potions. They don't do diddly, but do give him the idea to use the glands he picked up from defeating Gyarados. He quaffs of the great sustenance and becomes empowered just as his foe's immunity buff wears off. There is much stabbing to be had, and through some mild tribulation, the beast is felled. Jin-Woo is healed and receives a marvelous variety of loot, including another key and the recipe for creating the elixir of life. At the mothership, Jin-Woo contemplates having the recipe to the elixir, but is lacking the ingredients. He decides that to continue the search, he best become stronger, and thus accepts Jin-Ho's proposition. The sole requisite being that only the two of them will enter each dungeon. C-rank gates demand a minimum of 8 people to meet guild requirements, but Jin-Woo suggests that they hire people to stand around outside. A strike force who can accomplish 19 raids with no casualties should look pretty good on Jin-Ho's resume as well, and he agrees to the conditions. Meanwhile, S-rank hunter Cha Hain runs around, drinks a Jew, then is accosted by the Yujin company's recruiter. Yusan has a fast car, and Jin-Ho has a feeling he could be someone by collecting dungeon resources for his father's business. To accomplish this, they need to compete with the 5 major guilds. Jin-Ho is nervous about his dealings with Jin-Woo, hoping that he can avoid poking at the hornet's nest of guilds. Unlike his brother, who is attempting to poach an S-rank hunter, Jin-Woo finds that he no longer has access to the unique gambling function from earlier, and laments the missed opportunity to acquire additional valuables. He also contemplates ways to more effectively level, but struggles to find any, despite Jin-Ho's proposition. Song-Song gets some screen time to reflect on becoming crippled and his place in the world of hunters. He wishes to spend his remaining time contributing to society, it would seem. The betrayer is called into action, as his wife attempts to suggest that he cease his dangerous occupation. As the main breadwinner of the household, he cannot. Bikyu and Holio and Choi-san have a joint meeting to discuss the Yujin Construction Company's bold moves lately. However, Choi-san has a spicy dish simmering behind the scenes. Ji-hoo remains within the riptide of melancholia as her mother tries to get her to return home. Despite her harrowing trauma, she hasn't given up on being a hunter. Cha Hain goes to snitch on the Yujin Company, but this is expected. She asks Choi-san about his conversation with Bake-san, cut to him mulling it over with a whiskey drink. Choi-san is unable to let go of the massacre at Jeju Island, no matter how much the public has tried to forget. He intends to do whatever necessary to prepare for the day when they return. Yun-ho recalls the names of his fallen companions in response. Meanwhile, someone hires a hitman, and Jin-Woo heads to work again, worrying his sister with the nonchalance of his parting. Song-san remarks on the tragedy of being a swordsman, given magic-focused powers, and runs into Jin-Woo in a fortunate twist of fate. Their reunion is joyous and full of questions like, "Why do you have 2 legs, Jin-Woo?" and statements such as, "I thought you were 5'3", but I guess you've grown to be 7'4", and can dunk with the big boys now. Looks like the fated pair are headed to the same place to accept an emergency summons, and wouldn't you know it, a few other familiar faces greet them. Ji-hoo is elated. Suddenly, a group of criminals arrive with their handler to act as substitute hunters. Song-san confronts the bitter irony of the situation, but is soothed by the presence of Kang Tai Taishik, a B-rank hunter. Jin-Woo tries to get Huji to forsake this delve, but she worked up the courage just to be here and declines. Song gets permission to raid lead and apologizes to Jin Weeaboo for accidentally being responsible for the death of 7 people. This is unnecessary to Jin-Woo, but Song mentally needed that. Taishik, the investigator, investigates slightly. The likely ill-fated party departs, and that's the end of part 2 of season 1 of Solo Leveling. Greetings. It's the outro. Here's some stuff to read if you want. Till next time. Bye.